Hey, what's up, guys? Got another deck list for you today. Of course, I'm going to be doing a deck that I've been enjoying playing in my free time quite a bit. Uh, that is, of course, Manipulative Tau. Uh, what can I say about it other than it's just the newest update in Black Tau, which is a deck I really enjoyed back in Set 7. I've enjoyed trying to play it, make it work in FanZ, but between different kind of metas getting involved, like Deflection Drill meta back in like Set 11, uh, it's hard to play this. So, but now we have Manipulative Mastery, which fills in a lot of the weaknesses in the deck, which is that you want to be defensive. You're not trying to enter combat unless you're going to end it, or you have Time as a Warriors tool. And so, with a little extra protection, um, not to mention some sweet new effects that kind of give you a little bit more utility, the deck is looking a lot better. So anyway, we'll turn the music down just a little bit for this part. And we'll go over the deck list here. So of course the attack lineup starts with Mercenary Tao's Dote on Wave and Blinding Energy move. Where the heck is... Oh, there we go. We have two more attacks over here as well. Of course, both those cards are staple for Tau. They're both going to be fulfilling the main parts of the deck. Dote on Wave, of course, is, plays into your game plan that you want in combat. You want to get this attached. Same with Black Capture. Both cards attach to your opponent's MP and start banishing out their life deck. So the idea is that every turn you're going to be banishing out their deck. You're going to screw up any setups for drawing that they have. You're just trying to whittle them down slowly. And we do have cards to buff that banishing amount in the deck, but the main idea of the deck is to get those two cards on. A Blinding Energy, of course, you're trying to end combat, you're trying to keep this on as long as possible, you're trying to just keep locking them out of combats, so the whole point of this deck is just to have combat denial. We get on a Black Trick Shot. This is just utility to help keep your opponent down. Again, keep them from leveling, reduces their effectiveness, their ability to chain combat, etc., etc. We have Black Swirl. This card is mostly to lock down people. A lot of decks tutor cards to their hand, and because you can use this now on the defensive with Manipulative Mastery, it's a very good card. You can reveal it after they tutor an attack or something to their hands with the action that they're attacking with, like Orange Bicycle Kick, for example. Or Orange Uppercut into Orange Bicycle Kick, and then you just go ahead and you throw this on the defensive and name the card that they tutored. Or maybe you want to lead with this card to shut off a sphere or something to protect your Tau puzzles. Always good. Black Energy Web at 2. This card's at 2. It's a mostly experimental use. As you see, the three of the four energy attacks here all have hit effects. Black Capture, Web, Swirl, which I want you to make note of, but Web is mostly there, against an energy deck. If they're not careful, you draw this on them and you whip this out. This is potentially a stop all against the right deck, so something to consider. And then Black Capture, like I said, both this card at the beginning of each turn, your opponent banishes, and I believe Dote on Wave is start of each turn? Yeah, so end and start of each turn. No, these are both beginning of each turn. But Dote on Wave, of course, can be countered if they start to hold block cards. So most decks don't hold the card against you to stop this, but next we get into the physical attack lineup. Defensive Burst is just the same mentality as Web against the right deck. It can completely shut out and be a stop all. So Face Crush and Deceptive Strike are at 2s. I have them at 2. Deceptive Strike I had at 3 originally. I like that it's anti-anger on the reveal. It's 2 anti-angers. Same thing with Face Crush. Face Crush also helps you get out capture quicker and Android programming quicker. But ultimately I'm doing it at 2 for now. We have Black Deceptive Strike. This has a great reveal effect. It gets you some crits, so a little extra ally clear, some anger hate, board clear with Dragon Ball control. I'd love to run it at 3, it's just no endurance on it right now, and there's other cards I'm trying to... This deck has gone through quite a bit of changes since I've been playing it, since set drop here. Some of the biggest changes I could do in this attack lineup are, I have Sincheck in here purely because it's a straight up 5 life card. It can give you some crits against control decks, it's a little helpful, but I honestly could see this card getting cut for some more styled synergy. The Manipulative Master really wants you to have some styled cards rolling around for the defensive. But ultimately, a 5 straight is really good, especially in a deck that's trying to slow game. Being able to toss this out in the right combat and hit this is going to always be nice. Plus, it's a critical attack. So, as far as being the weakest attacks of the deck, though, and cards that might flight around numbers, these cards right here all have playroom. Trick Shot, I think, has to be in. These 3 have to be in. Capture could make it up to 3, but I like having it at 2. I don't always like to see it super often, but it does play with the main theme of the deck, so maybe I should bump it to 3. But Web is mostly the meta call. There are just a lot of energy decks that do exist, and not to mention its great synergy with another card we'll get to. Black Swirls is super, super good, especially in this Mastery. So I think this card, I like to have this card at 3, and I have it at 3 before for previous builds, but a lot of cards we're trying to move and work in. So if I was to make any immediate cuts, I would definitely get rid of Sinchoke to maybe bump this up to 3. Black Piercing Beam was in this deck initially, mostly for the utility effect. The problem with Black Piercing Beam is that if you reveal it, it does have to banish attach card or drill. Or sorry, attach card or ally, and that means that if you have your attach cards on, you have to banish your attach cards. It's the same clause as Red Energy Blast. So for this deck, it's a little scary to run at times. So that's why I ultimately cut it. And so anyway, that's attack line. Yeah, Piercing Beam. I could see Face Crush, Swirl, Capture going to 3 ofs. D-Burst, Deceptive Strike, Web are the most cuttable, but I think Deceptive Strike is just super good. Being an Anger Lower 2 on reveal. It's utility, really good. Probably going to put this back up to 3. I'm just going to test around with Sinchoke, see how I like it. So anyway, we get to the block line. I have a lot of blocks in the deck. Most of them are at 3 ofs, except Time is Worst. So we'll just go through those real quick. Again, this deck is trying to optimize being in combat. Like, if you have to be in combat, you want to be just trying to shut down your opponents. So that's why we have D-Burst, Web, Blinding, Swirl. But then I also have Black Check and Swipe at 3, both great utility blocks with some pile hate built in them. I don't ever have a discard outlet for Check unless it gets discarded by my opponent. But again, it's a little bit of anger hate and some endurance. Swipe's got endurance and the pile hate, great. Hop. You know, I only honestly run this card because it is an Omni. It feels like I rarely actually get the reveal thing from it. It's mostly because it's an Omni. It's definitely the weakest block in the deck. I'd love to run something over it, but it's pretty good in just doing what it needs to do. I really don't need it to do anything too fancy other than just be a block. So, and it's an Omni. So again, we're just trying to maximize. In this deck, I have a lot of Omni blocks. I'm just trying to maximize my block efficiency if I get stuck in combat. On the move, again, this is going to be, it's not so much for the parenthetical part that's a counter, per se. It's just more for, like, giving you a little extra hand advantage against decks. There's so many MP attacks in the game that, like, throwing this against an MP attack, giving yourself some stages so you might be able to throw a web or one of your energy attacks. It's always really good on the move, so. You can also combo this with Black Absorption Drill when you top deck with this card to draw with on the move, so. Taos Puzzles. Again, another Omni block, and same with Time, both of which pretty much make the opponent's combat do nothing, unless they're an anger deck. Then time doesn't really do much, but Puzzles, being able to force your opponent to pass the next action, really, really good. And not to mention you play this on the defensive, it gives you one action window where you can still make an action, throw like an attack out like a capture, or throw your Dodon Wave out, get those attached, and then they have to pass, then you get combat because you pass as well. So, but pretty heavy on the block lineup. Again, 10 Omnis plus 6 dedicated blocks, so 16 blocks total. Not to mention we have 2 Combat Enders in the Blindings. We have D-Burst and Web. Like, I would almost want to put them at 3 just to really maximize on like a third of your deck just being able to lock your opponent out of combat. So I could see the Sinchokes going bam, 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 just to really make it so your opponent can't do anything in combat with all the combat enders and the blocks. So we'll get on to the event line. Again, here's some more slots I could play around. Black Invitation's a card I'm hot and cold about. I really love the endurance, and I love the fact that it lets you use a hit effect. The problem is there's a lot of times where you'll draw this card like passing, and it's like you debate whether you're going to keep it over like keeping a block, and usually it's just kind of My biggest issue is you never choose to keep it. It's kind of like one of those cards that you hope you luck into at the right time with the right hit effect. But again, D-Burst, Face Crush, Swirl. Not that you really need the hit effect Anger on Swirl all that often with this build, but Web, Capture all have great synergy with it. So those are reasons why, and that's another reason why. It's another reason why I'd rather like take Sinchoke out to throw another D-Burst, Web, and like Swirl or Face Crush in, is because of this card. I'm getting the hit effect. It's really good. Villainous Empowerment's another card too. So this is a card I actually recently added in. It's mostly to deal with board hate. Again, if you play against Deflection Drill, most decks that are running Deflection Drill, you're not going to be able to touch Deflection Drill. They're going to be combative decks, orange decks, really generally combative, and those decks are kind of not played a ton right now, which is good for this deck. That's really the one card that just completely shuts this deck down, because you're going to be getting your attach cards on, and then it's just going to be killing you. But this is actually here mainly for the tutor part. It has got some actually decent use in this deck. It doesn't really shut off too many of our cards. There's only one setup in our deck that it actually shuts off, stops you from using. But what's really cool about it is being able to tutor for your drills. I took this over Black Glare. Black Glare could be this spot, but I mainly took this over Black Glare because I wanted some sort of board tech. And I've run Black Glare before, and I really just don't like it because it's got no endurance. But Black Glare is really nice because it lets you see their hand and lets you know if you need to end combat or not. Like if you see your opponent being able to go off, and it gives you a little bit of better sequencing manipulative, so that way you know what you really need to prevent from their hand. But I ultimately went for the board hate and the endurance on this. So again, shuts off board, can't be used, which is really good. You leave this in combat or at the right time, and you go get one of your powerful drills out. I mean, we only run 2 drills that can grab, but if you get this early, ideally, it's still useful. So that's one. This card could definitely turn into Black Glare, because Black Glare turns into Black Power Up. Because Black Glare can get setups too, but just a thought, right? This is just the way that I chose to go right now. I think Black Glare might ultimately take its spot. I just wanted to play around with Empowerment and see how useful it is. But ultimately, again, Black Glare would turn into another pseudo combat ender, which is one reason why I was looking at it over this card. But I also did edit this deck when I was drunk, so Drink Z, what up? I did it before, like right around that time. So anyway, we have the final 3 events. So we got Tug of War at 2, need some ally hate, anger hate. I'd love to run it at 3, but 3 would be almost too much maybe. Allies suck, like Nappa sucks, Paragus sucks. You can watch my match on Drink Z with Casey, is like pretty much why I lost, because of Paragus ally, Nappa ally getting out simultaneously, and he managed to banish both my tugs instead of actually hit them with damage or mill, which is really weird. So, rip. Good on a Mechian whack. Villainous Energy Sphere at 2 mainly to just help protect our puzzles, but because we can run Swirl on the defensive, and because it's just like needing space for more playable events with how big combats can be for a lot of decks, Sphere is just kind of like hard to justify a 3 in this deck right now. And besides, Swirl can work as Sphere, so. So we got Stare Down. Again, taking the best card out of my opponent's hand, so it just goes with the whole denial thing. Yeah, so again, we're just trying to make it so we're trying to maximize how, making combat really hard for my opponent to make, optimally, whether I end it or not. So we'll get to the board lineup again. Ball 7 and other combat enders. So that brings us at 1, 2, 3. This 4, 5, 6. And then of course we go into black power ups, 7, 8, 9 cards that end combat or make them pass. Not to mention D-Burst, Web, and Time all can lock them out of combats really well too. So Empowerment kind of goes in the same sense that it can make some certain decks completely do nothing for combat board decks. Then we get on to Black Android Programming, Black Impatience, 2 attach cards. This one attaches, of course, to a board card. It's at a 1 of because you can't tutor it with Face Crush, but it's got some potential. I don't know. I have it in a 1. I might just cut it. I mostly threw it in here for board decks. This deck, I don't know. Black Impatience could definitely be cut for another Android programming. I just wanted to try it out one. I have not used it like once. So, or I could throw it in for another drill to make empowerment better. Again, if I end up liking empowerment over like glare, maybe I would turn this into like rupture drill. I was really liking that card. Gives a +1 mod, life card mod all your style attacks plus the mastery, so +2 and everything. So it makes a lot of these attacks critical. A little extra chipping, damage wise. Not to mention some pile hate, banish on rupture drill, but impatience would probably go. I just haven't really been liking it. It just never really gets on, but if you can get it on, it can be very difficult for decks to get rid of it, especially if it's on an ally or a setup, or sorry, a drill. But of course, if Tug of War gets hit, oh well. And then Android programming, of course. This makes all my banish effects increase by 1. So again, this card I should probably cut Impatience. I just want to try Impatience a little bit longer, but I'm probably gonna ultimately cut it at a 3rd programming. So again, as you can see, I'm already talking about changes I'd make to the deck. I looked over the deck actually right before I loaded it up here, and there was still a lot of things that I was thinking about. There's definitely a lot of playroom. Again, there's at least a dozen cards I could see myself moving around. Like Black Hop is kind of underwhelming. It's just there for Omni, but that could definitely go. This could go. This could go. This could go. This could go. You know, these probably should stay. But there's like, you know, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 slots, literally 12 slots that I could see myself changing depending on how the deck runs. I think Sinchuk's probably going to go actually right now just to justify this a little bit better. And I could always see actually cutting Impatience for a 3rd capture, because capture, or even better, just like another Face Crush really could make it into this deck. I could see that going too. Maybe even 2 Invitation. Probably 2 Invitation would be good, because a lot of times I said I pass on. These are just all changes I'm thinking about. I'm probably going to play another game or 2 of the deck. A lot of times I do miss Sinchuk when I don't have it in, so. But I think Stout Synergy is probably the best way to shoot for. And again, the freestyle attacks we're running are mostly because they're really good. And Sinchuk is just a really good life card, you know, flat 5. You're generally going to only be entering with this deck if you know that you can get off a web or a deburst, or you have, you know, puzzle or time, ways to end combat, you know, power up and stuff. So, but again, biggest threats I've had when playing this deck: Nap Ally, Paragus Ally, Suppressive Strike can really shit on your life. Definitely launching Sheet 2 hurts, Deflection Drill. These things are all huge counters. I don't see this deck as like tier 1 or anything. It's definitely like a tier 3. I think you could definitely tune it up to tier 2. I really feel like I could tune up to tier 2. As far as that goes, you know, Defiant Challenge could even make a play in here, purely to help just recycle the puzzles and to speed up the engine with Dodon Wave. Which I might try that out actually now that I'm saying it. It sounds really good. Black Lair again. Black Lair, since I have 9 combat enders, Black Lair pretty much turns into 10-11 if I ran that over Empowerment, because Black Lair can tutor power up, you know, so if you draw that card, as long as you have like a block and an attack, at least a attack or 1 block, like if your opponent enters on you, you can at least, you know, maybe take a hit or block, and then, you know, Black Lair to power up out, and then power up next action. So some more combos. I'm definitely, yeah, I'm probably gonna make that change actually. So probably gonna throw Black Lair in. But Empowerment's still really cool, I think. But just space is pretty tight in this, so maybe a lot of changes you can make. Again, I think these are all good changes I'm thinking about critically right now as I'm looking at the list in front of me versus in a Octagon list. But this is a really fun deck. I think you guys should try it out. You can try the changes I'm thinking about. You can try to revert to my older builds. Really take advantage of the fact though that this mastery is pretty much like Protective Mastery. It's very similar. Like I've argued it's almost better than Protective. Not better against Anger, but it gives you a lot more flexibility against a lot more matchups. Not to mention having selective pile hate with its mastery, you can't underrate that. Like, it's actually been super helpful. There's plenty of matchups where I see cards hit the pile that I know I need to kill, especially board cards like drills in an orange matchup, or There's certain like cards in like Namekian that I see that I don't want looped by like imposing or rejuvenated by knowledge or whatever. Even sane enhanced. There's just so many. There's a lot of utility in this mastery. It's incredibly underrated. I think it's the sleeper. I think not a lot of people are looking at it right now because they're so focused on other decks, but it is incredibly powerful. And I'm gonna make the changes to this deck actually after this. But yeah, hopefully I'm gonna sling some more games. So if you see me on, I do whip this deck out every once in a while. I've like lost every match with it, but to be fair, I was super drunk for like one or two of the matches I played with this deck, and I don't really remember the match that well. That's how drunk I was. And also, I've done some matches with this deck where like I just made one misplay because I was distracted or something, and like so there's a very low margin of error you can play with this deck. But when you pull it off right, like you play if you can play a flawless game with this deck, like any deck really, but like if you can really be on top of your stuff, like this deck will really reward you, and it's really fun. Um, how close you can get with this deck, even when you're playing suboptimally sometimes. So, but I got to get in the habit of playing it. But anyway, guys, really enjoy this deck. One of my favorites of the set so far that I made. Um, really love this mastery. I'm definitely gonna build some more decks with it, but I hope you guys enjoy. Get out there, play some games. This is a really great set. Don't let Energetic Vegito and also their bullshit deter you. There's so many good decks out there right now, and so many decks that just tier 2 and 3. It's just like the last two sets of FanZ. These two tier 2, 3 decks are like the most fun decks I've ever played in FanZ. So, but anyway, guys, take it easy. Peace.